Right, if I get this crowd to quiet down. Are the microphones live
1 moment.
or recording?
You're good. You're ready.
Okay. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sunnyside City Council regular meeting for today, January 27, 2025. For the record, all members of staff indicated are present, and council is all present with the exception of Councilor Hart and Councilor Frausto. Council, if there's no objection, we'll give them a chance to arrive and we can revisit the absences at the end of the meeting. All right, we'll move forward then. It's time 6 o'clock. All right, first item is agenda approval. As we look over the agenda, I know the city manager has requested an executive session for this evening. Is there any other changes to be made to tonight's agenda? Mr. Beeler.
I'd like to add something to the executive session.
Okay. Do you have an RCW to go with that?
No, I just want to talk about the Monson property,
Okay.
the status.
All right, we will add that to the discussion of the in the executive session. For the record, Councilor Hart has arrived. Any other changes, additions, subtractions to the agenda? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on the agenda as modified?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Beeler, second by Deputy Mayor to approve the agenda as we have just modified that. Is there debate on this item? Hearing no debate, all in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. The agenda is approved. Next item, invocation. Do we have somebody here this evening for the invocation? I'd like to ask that you please rise for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Okay, let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for the opportunity we have to gather here as a city in this council meeting, Lord. And we just lift up to you, God, every situation, every concern, Lord, every matter that will be discussed today. We just need your guidance and your wisdom, God. I lift up our mayor, our deputy mayor, our city manager, every council member here, God. We just pray for wisdom and guidance as we go through this meeting today, God. And we pray for your peace to be with us in all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
And
Pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Next item, for the record, Councilor Frausto has arrived. Next item is public comment. Do we have a sheet for public comment there, sir? I get the impression there might be one or two who want to make a public comment here. See.
You need more water.
All right. Well, I have two. All right.
Yeah.
Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and or research for presentation at a future meeting. If you'd like follow-up, then you would have needed to leave your contact information on this form. So the first name on my list is Jason Moore.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jason, and I am here tonight to represent the City of Sunnyside Public Works. I'm here to bring some attention to the fact that we are the last and only group that currently does not have a contract. We have been without a contract for over a year now with no resolution. We have been more than patient in this process. We understand the financial situation the city is working through, but the financial burden should not be put on the Public Works Department. We have sit here with no contract, no cost of living, no pay increases, and no changes in our insurance rates. We have attempted to find solutions within our group by meeting with Public Works Director and multiple meetings with the union reps, yet none of this has worked. As a group, we find Public Works is the backbone of the city. We have good employees that are committed and work hard for the city and the citizens. Yet most employees having to have 2 jobs in order to support their families due to the increases of cost of living. This is one reason why it is so important to us to get a fair contract. We are asking the city council to consider our request in putting some priority into our public works team and assist us in finding a solution or contact by working with staff and our union reps. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next name on my list is Richard Salinas.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Leadership. My name is Richard Salinas, and I'm the Principal Officer of Teamsters Local 760. I'm here today honored to be representing on behalf of Teamsters Local 760, your dedicated Public Works Department, and we stand united with them as a sign of strength and solidarity as they struggle to navigate these difficult times the city is enduring financially. We come before you to encourage the city to recognize the importance of investing in these essential employees. They are the backbone of the numerous vital services provided to your community. They work tirelessly day after day, making sure that they provide a quality product to all citizens of Sunnyside. Yet, as I stand before you here today, they continue to face uncertainty and fear regarding the future and the ability to secure a future contract covering their employment. We believe it is crucial for all interested parties to work collaboratively to reach a fair and equitable contract for these employees that ensures stability, lifts their morale, and galvanizes in their minds that they are indeed perform crucial roles for the citizens of your city. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you, sir. And for the record, there's very limited amounts that council is allowed to do under law. We are not allowed to enter into union negotiations or contract negotiations of any kind. We can approve them, but we don't get to be the ones that enter into those negotiations. So, but I'm certain that we can encourage our city manager to keep these things happening.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being here this evening too, by the way. So, all right, those are the only two names that I had on my public comment list for the evening. The consent agenda is the next item. The consent agenda consists of the following: minutes of the November 25, 2024 regular meeting, minutes of the December 2, 2024 study session, and minutes of the December 9, 2024 regular meeting. Payroll vouchers. Approved payroll vouchers numbers 119678 through 119682 and wire transfers as listed for $708,469.20 for the period ending December 24, 2024. And approved payroll voucher numbers 119683 through 119690 and wire transfers as listed for $620,067.40 for the period ending on January 10, 2025. And claim vouchers, approved claim voucher numbers 110965, 110979, and 111084 through 111144. That's a lot of ones. And wire transfers as listed for $1,755,443.29 for the period ending on January 24, 2025. Council members, is there any item that you would like to remove from the consent agenda? Yes, sir.
I would like the corrected payroll transaction 17748. 01-1025 to 01-1025 payroll 228. And then the transaction number 424.
Okay. Other items?
Have to.
Mayor.
110965, 111127. Just have a follow-up question for my email.
All right. Any others? All right, Mr. Beeler, you have the floor.
We have two payroll transaction, one on the correction payroll transaction and one the other one that's a very high amount. I just wanted to know why they're high. If it's employee leaving service or.
Very good question. I'm going to guess Mrs. Abel might have an answer or be able to at least start.
Unfortunately, I do not have an answer for that. I would assume it's someone that has left, although I don't recall. Oh, okay.
Sorry. Council, regarding 17748, all that I can speak on behalf is that gentleman did retire.
Retired? Okay.
Okay, you have further questions on this?
And what was the next one?
282
Is that in payroll or the
payroll.
payroll?
Is that, what, is there a check?
That's 01-10-25.
What is 282?
It's a $12,000 check to a payroll check.
What is the check number?
It doesn't give me a check number. It says transaction 282. I guess you have a new system that does every check a different number.
Oh, that is another cash out for someone that has left the city.
Okay. And then transaction 424.
Oh, this is on AP?
Yes.
Food license rental, is that for the kitchen?
This is the food handler's permit for the community center.
Yeah, there is a penalty on that because we didn't do it on time. I'm wondering why we didn't do it on time and how we're going to correct it.
I believe the reason it wasn't on time was because it was in the email of the previous rec supervisor that left. And so it was going to her emails. So by the time it was received with staff now, it was already late.
What have we done to correct this so we don't get late fees again?
It needs to be switched to the right people now, as far as this happened to be in that transition stage of where the previous employee lost her position and it was in her email. So to try to get those emails forwarded for those reasons, this got stuck in that email.
But if the city's responsible for it, we need to really put a protocol where we know where we're paying penalties and how we can fix it. Thank you.
That answer your questions, Mr. Beeler?
It does.
All right, Mr. Govan.
Yeah, 110965 replaced concrete. It was some sort of accident. Do you have some sort of?
Yeah, so that is on 9th and YVH. There was an accident, a car that went into the hydrant, broke the hydrant, and there's concrete around it. And now it's also under an insurance claim where they will be under restitution. They'll be paying the city back for that cost.
So they did have insurance. We're just waiting for the insurance to clear it.
Yeah, go through the,
Do we have any, and speaking of protocols, do we have any protocols in place to, I guess, reference back and go back to that? That way we don't forget about it?
well, it gets turned over to the insurance. There was also a police department report on that accident. So all that got turned over to the city's insurance.
Mhm. So it's a city insurance that's going to pay, not the insurance for
Well,
the
we turn
vehicle.
it into them because they're handling the claim.
Okay. All right.
And then they'll go after.
They'll go after them. And then,
Just,
You
can I
wanna-
just ask a quick question?
yeah.
In reference to the
Go for
insurance,
it.
is
Go ahead,
that,
Ms. Hart.
is that the usual procedure of how insurance claims are handled,
Yes.
the way you just described it? So that's,
So if we've had damage to our property, we will submit a claim to WCIA and then WCIA will process it from there.
and in the meantime, somebody is also to the person who did the damage, their insurance also?
Yes, WCIA works with their insurance.
I see, okay.
And-
Thank you.
yeah, and the reason I asked is I remember last year there was a conversation about the bridge on Edison and the 241. There was an accident there. A semi had hit it, and we had no idea if the insurance had paid anything on that, I guess, on that damage. So I just was wondering, should we have protocols to kind of, hey, what's going on with this claim? It hasn't been paid.
Well, yes, we do, because the person who is responsible for submitting the claims will keep track of all the correspondence that comes back from WCIA, and then we get a closeout letter from WCIA, so what the final result has been.
Okay.
So, but I'm not, this was last,
It was, no, this accident must have happened like 3 years ago. And
Oh,
it was the bridge on Edison and 241. There was a semi truck that hit it. And I believe last year I brought that question up, but we didn't know if the insurance had paid anything on it. So I guess if you could go back, if there's a way to check with our insurance to see, what the outcome was of that accident. It's easy to forget these small accidents and then just, let them sit there. I mean, I have experience with insurances. I know how they work. But then the next one, 11/11/27 for the insurance. When was, and thank you, Ms. Abel, for answering the question that I had on the email, to what departments paid what. And I guess my question is, when was the last time we had an assessment with our insurance? Are we making sure that the properties are the properties that we have, the vehicles are the vehicles that we have, or are we still paying insurance on vehicles that maybe have been in an accident or we have surplus and no longer have? When was the last, I guess, assessment that we have done on ourselves?
so we get an annual assessment from WCIA, and then we should be doing at least annually, if not every 2 years, if not annually, doing a review of all of our vehicles and properties. Now, WCIA is also doing their own evaluations of city properties, and they started probably 3 years ago, excuse me, of sending appraisers out to get the properties appraised.
Mm.
So when we do our vehicles, we want to depreciate those vehicles that we're not going to have for replacement, or we want to continue appreciating those vehicles that we want to have replacement.
Okay, so we do make sure then that we're not paying for vehicles we no longer have.
Right.
That's something that City Hall has under control.
I have not reviewed that, but it is one of the things that will be reviewed.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Are both you satisfied with your answers, sir?
Yep.
Mr. Kawan? Okay. So hearing all of that, what is council's desire on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilor Beeler, second by Deputy Mayor to approve the consent agenda. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none. I see Ms. Strauss has stepped out. Do we want to wait on the vote for her? Or do we want to just give her a chance to vote afterwards?
Wait.
Good wait a second. This is the part where we understand that council members are humans as well and sometimes have to step out.
Humans.
I could do a debate on this item.
Okay.
We need to find out why we're paying penalties on bills, even if it's $3 or $3,000. We should be paying penalties on bills that are not being paid. So we really need to step up and follow these and not blame somebody else. We need to take accountability.
Well, and I think there's a good lesson to be learned here as well, because when an employee leaves, that make sure that as they leave, their email is forwarded to a supervisor or someone else, so those emails are not lost and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so we have a motion and the motion's been seconded and there's no debate on the item. And so all in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. If you vote aye, motion passes. I feel like my microphone is cutting out from time to time. So. All right, active agenda. This is one of the items that we've been waiting for a while. City Council Rules of Procedure. Approve a resolution amending and adopting the Sunnyside City Council Rules of Procedure and superseding and replacing previous rules of procedure. This has been a project that has been on the radar for quite some time, and the Rules Committee has got together this fall and worked on it quite diligently. And then we have the opportunity. We wanted to make sure that all members of council were present before we voted on this, make sure everybody has a voice on this. So, and I know council members have different items that have been brought up and different concerns. And so I want to give council members an opportunity to discuss this item, and then we can vote on approving this. I would really like to see these approved this evening, but obviously we all have to agree. So council, is there questions, comments, or points of discussion you'd like to make? Mr. Beeler.
Yeah, like I told you before, on 4.1, duties of the chair, Mayor, if present, shall preside over the meetings. And last month, you had a cold or
Coughing fit.
a Charlie or something in your throat and you couldn't do it. And the way the rule is wrote here, you would have to leave the meeting to turn the meeting over to the deputy mayor. Because if you're here, you have to do the meeting.
And
So
that's what it looks like. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask our parliamentary procedure expert here in the room, in the event of an occasion like that, if you remember the coughing fit I had in that one meeting and I asked the deputy mayor to take over for a minute or two, is that imperative that if I were to do that, I need to step out of the room in order to be able to hand the meeting over to the deputy mayor while I'm having a coughing fit? Or is that something that there's enough flex in the rules to where we can just do that?
There's enough, I'm going to call it flex, but there's an ability if you're impaired from performing your duties and presiding over the mayor, even if it's temporarily, you're not required to leave the room in that particular situation. You can implement a rule requiring that if you choose to do so.
Okay, because I was concerned, because Mr. Beeler brought that up at the last meeting, and I was concerned about that. And I thought that there'd be enough leeway in there to where if somebody's overcome by a coughing fit or whatever the case may be, that they could quickly turn it over while they try to get themselves back under control. Ms. Fausto?
Would it be a good idea to maybe add some language in there or become impaired? I mean, would that make more sense to you, Counselor Beeler?
I just know it says shall preside and shall is.
So we could add a sentence at the end, I think, that if you would like, and this is what you and I talked about the last meeting, to where if the chair becomes impaired for any reason, then the deputy mayor can take over.
The way I read it now, you would have to leave the room for the meeting to take over.
All right, what is the feeling of council on that item? We can add a sentence at the end?
You probably want to couch that with temporarily or temporary impairment.
I would think so.
Okay, so we could add if the chair is temporarily impaired, he or she may hand the meeting over to the deputy mayor
Yes.
until they're able to resume.
Or not just the deputy mayor, the protocol, because after, if he's not here, there has to be the next one. So you can't say the deputy mayor.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, may be able to, the chair may hand the meeting over temporarily
To the next in line.
to the next in line, yeah. Yeah, because if the deputy mayor wasn't here
We'd
and
have to vote on another.
and it happened again, I would
Yeah.
probably hand it to the person sitting next to me until I could get out and get it solved, because that was quite the event in that evening. That was.
Yes, it was.
I've never had something like that happen before, and I would hope never to have to do that again. That was not pleasant. Okay, so
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
I thought there was a rule in here where it states that procedure. Maybe we could reference to that rule if I could find it.
What, do you remember where?
yeah, if we could reference it, we'd have to find it. But I see
The clerk
that,
has already added the line we just talked about, correct?
yeah, she just added that in
Yeah.
there.
But could we just scroll down there a little bit in the 4 just to see if
It's not going to be in 4.
it won't be?
No.
Responsibilities?
Preservation of order, points of order, chair responsibilities may move second in debate. That just allows the chair to be a member of council essentially.
Okay, well, I guess that's where it would go then. Don't you think so?
I thought it was another.
Another spot? I couldn't
section.
remember.
And section 4.2, I was just reading that here as well. So if you look in the middle of that paragraph,
That's like.
in the absence of both mayor and deputy mayor, the meeting shall be called to order by the city clerk for the election of a temporary chair.
There you go.
So if you're both impaired, God forbid, then the city clerk would then ask for election of chair. And that's in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order.
So I guess what I'm asking, what is the desire of council on this one? Should we keep the changes as have been entered in?
I'd say yes. Might as well keep it. We already know what it's about, so we could keep it there.
Well, and I'm not as concerned about us as I am about future councils.
That's true. they'd have a chance to also edit and remove or add
This
on.
is true, because these rules of procedure can be edited, and need to be edited and updated regularly.
Deputy Mayor, did you mention adding maybe like italics or something or like refer to? Well, to cop, to,
Section 4.2.
yeah, the one where that says that, yeah, the one that talks about the process of, in the absence of the mayor, is the deputy mayor or then the chair.
4.2.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, that's-
Yeah. That's the simplest way.
or something like, yeah. There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Looks good.
I'm good with that.
Satisfactory?
Absolutely.
Okay. Seems like there's a consensus. Other items to be brought up on this item? Questions, comments, or discussion?
That policy, I'm sorry? Or,
That section.
oh,
No, the whole.
On the
item?
entire,
Oh,
on the entire document?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
Come from the floor.
I got one on page 51.
Okay, can you give a,
I'm trying to get
Point
there.
here.
So order of business 5.1 and mine is going to be on 5.2.
point two, invocation?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yes, so actually under 5.1, number 3, it says invocation, parentheses, we see moment of silence. And then 5.2, it says each regular meeting of the city council shall be opened with a moment of silence if no one is available for invocation. I'd like to edit that to each meeting will be opened with an invocation. If no one is available for the invocation, we will then fill that time with the moment of silence.
Okay,
You just want to switch
It's just
it.
Correct, because it like the way it's written, it's like moment of silence is like the first option on that sentence.
Could I just, I will just wait. I'll just wait till you get that.
So I removed the word regular. What was the other change? I'm sorry. Each meeting of the.
So yeah, so it would stay the same. You would just change it, shall be opened with an invocation. And then you would follow along with, if no one is available for an invocation, we will then fill that time with a moment of silence. Because it's kind of like, it says it will be open with a moment of silence if no one is available for an invocation. Kind of like
Yeah.
backwards.
Question?
yes.
What would the moment of silence be for? Because usually you dedicate it to, it doesn't make
Don't
sense.
really have.
Yeah, and that's what you guys came up with, and I had these questions, and I believe Julia Hart was gonna respond to that.
I think the only reason you have the moment of silence so that you could observe that moment of silence in the way of your faith. You know, if you just
For yourself.
pray, yourself and for that moment of silence and not for anything in particular, but just a moment of silence. We prefer to have the invocation like we had tonight with the one blessing us all and hoping for everything to turn out good. But a moment of silence, you could do that silently while you stood here
But the way we've always done it, if there's.
with the invocation.
Then we just move on.
We just proceed.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's what I think is in the current rules of procedure. If no one is available to do the invocation, then we will move forward.
And
Oh.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I saw the YouTube, but the conversation that y'all had too was about broadening it up to other potential or other possible
Religions and.
religion, yeah, spiritualities, right? Like,
Or
yeah.
faiths.
So we're not. So I think that's where the whole moment of silence came in versus having the prayer. But just to answer your question, that's where the moment of silence conversation came
That's where
from.
the-
or at
that's
least
where the moment of
intention
silence-
of the moment of silence to just be more inclusive of different people's faith. If there's someone here who's not, right?
Yes, because correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there was like a name of
Beliefs.
a conference or something, but that's already been removed,
Mhm.
and
Ministerial
fine.
Yes.
Association.
Yeah, there was a Sunnyside Ministerial Association, which no longer exists, but that was in our rules of procedure.
Mhm.
So that organization was removed from the language.
Okay.
But the way I see it is a moment of silence is to go back and reflect on what your faith is or what you believe in. But there's nothing there that we're saying, so I don't understand.
So pretty much maybe like just an invocation, and if there's no one there for invocation, then we'd follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance, like you
And
guys
that's
would.
what we've been doing.
Okay.
Yes.
But I think that the reason was to provide someone whose beliefs are different and are not Christian based the opportunity to also have a moment that
How can you be different from nothing?
it's not
Well,
nothing, you're
and
giving
this,
them a
this is probably
moment.
not the time for that particular debate, but
I mean, it's not nothing. I think prayer to everybody, or I think their spirituality can be practiced in different ways. It's not just necessarily like a prayer at the podium, right?
this was a topic brought up by the committee, and so we felt that it would be here, it'd be better to be debated in council and discussed. And if council wants to continue with this language, then we can certainly do that. If council wants to change that and remove the moment of silence, then that is up to council. This is ultimately a document that is approved by council. And so what is presented to you is as a committee, is our best suggestion. And council then has the opportunity to make the changes that they see fit. We don't want anybody to be thinking that the Rules Committee is coming here, muscling this in and just pushing it on everybody. So certainly it is up for discussion. And if council would want to pull that language out, well, then they're certainly welcome to do that. So
I am really happy what the committee has brought forth, because I'm just one person. I just don't understand it, but I'm here for city council. So it's not a problem to me. I just wanted information on what it's about.
right. And there was interest in opening it up to other faith organizations if they wish to lead an invocation type activity. But the moment of silence, I think there was at least one person in there who said they would like to replace the invocation, which is essentially a prayer, with a moment of silence instead. This gives us an option. If we wish to remove moment of silence and not have that in there at all, if there's no one to give an invocation, we can just move on to the next item on the agenda. That's fine too.
I have a question, because if I remember right, when I had talked to a few council members, I recall that the association, the ministerial association, was removed for that exact reason, to open it to every faith.
No, the ministerial association no longer exists as an organization.
Correct. And with that being said, then it's open to any faith-based, I mean, Catholics, Mormons, anyone's welcome, right, to
Correct.
lead prayers. So
Hindus,
that's
Buddhists.
a plus with removing that language.
So,
Mayor, I have a
Yes.
question. Are we adding invocations to the study sessions since we removed the word regular?
We've not.
Would it just be in all the meetings?
so my version here says each regular meeting of the
Each
city
regular
council.
meeting, that would
So
stay.
keep the word regular?
Yes.
Okay.
Those meetings where we had action. Yeah.
So, council, what is your desire here? Is it to keep the moment of silence or to remove the moment of silence? I feel like invocation, everybody wants to stay, but moment of silence?
I'd agree with Counselor Vasquez and just your suggestion. If we keep the prayer first or invocation first, and then continuing to allow a moment of silence for anybody who, I know Mapton does it, for example. They have a moment of silence, so I think it's actually kind of standard practice, but.
Do they request a moment of silence, or is it
No,
just,
they just provide it.
they just provide it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so with the change in the sentence structure, is everybody okay with that, the way the sentences was changed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's a little less cumbersome, so yeah, I think that's a good change. Ms. Hart?
Let's make one kind of detail. We have the agenda approval before the invocation, and then in our 5.2, 5.3, I think those just need to be, the numbers there just need to be changed. That the invocation comes before the agenda approval.
It didn't tonight. Oh, yeah, it didn't. It did
Well,
approval and
okay,
then the-
well, then the numbers down here with the paragraphs need to be changed then. One or the other is wrong. Do you see what I mean?
Call to order.
We did,
Order of
okay,
business.
Dale, if you go down to 5.2 in the paragraph invocation, and then you go down to 5.3, it says consent agenda.
And you want a 5?
Well, no, up there, we don't have one that says agenda. Oh, we don't need one.
I don't.
So those,
It
Yeah,
doesn't.
we don't need one.
It doesn't need an
No.
explanation, so.
There you go. Now I remember. Excuse me for that bit of clumsiness there. Sorry about that.
All right.
Gotcha.
Feel like we've satisfied your question then, Ms. Hart.
Yeah,
Let's move
we
on.
have.
Is there any further questions or changes or comments? Yes, Ms. Ripley?
Okay, on 5.1, order of business. I don't know why we need to change it to +1 majority vote. By majority vote +1, super majority. What were the reasons for that?
Okay, that is just suspending the rules. So that is a special circumstance. If we want to suspend the rules and do things in a different way, then it will take a larger majority of council. And that, in the past, when we've suspended the rules, it has not been difficult to get. I mean, all of council seems to agree. If we want to suspend the rules, for example, on the time limit for public comment, we've all pretty much agreed that it was okay. We might have one person who says no, but for the most part, we've had a super majority. It's just to suspend the rules. It's always been, I believe, I think it was in the previous form as well. It had.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So the suspension of the rules is in a different section. It's 10 point something.
Right, but she's asking about 5.1.
Yeah, so that's.
I think that's where.
And and this one suspends the rules and changes the order. So, if we wanted to change the Pledge of Allegiance to the end of the agenda, it would take a majority of council or a supermajority of council to change the order of events.
Mr. Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
I move to strike +1 parentheses supermajority in section 5.1.
I second it.
Okay, well, we have a motion to strike the supermajority requirement for changing the order of business in the agenda. Motion by Mr. Deputy Mayor and second by Councilor Ripley, if I remember right. Yes, okay. Debate on this item?
How many items does this thing cover?
It would cover the order of events, so it's 11.
And how many other supermajorities do we have in our voting?
There are a couple.
There's a few in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This motion is for, well, this motion would just cover the 5.1, but there's another one in 10.1
9.6.
and 6.6.
That are also supermajority?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I figured, if I may, I figured we just tackle it one at a time unless.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Is there more debate or questions on this item?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, could you bring more clarity as to why you want to remove it on this part? Just.
Well, I just want to tackle one at a time, one section at a time.
For 5.1?
For 5.1, yeah. So instead of removing the supermajority of all of them, like we could just tackle one at a time and, see what council wants to do. Because you might agree with supermajority in one of them, but not the other one.
So that's why I'm asking, like, why do you want to remove it for 5.1?
I think it needs to be even across the board, in my opinion.
It was by a majority.
By a majority.
Majority vote.
Members
of
before.
council.
So what you're saying then, Mr. Galvano, is ultimately you want to remove the supermajority from the entire document.
Correct.
Okay. But you're taking them one by one.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Hart, you had a comment.
Well, I just think that there may be a reason why we would want to have a supermajority here. If, for example, say we wanted to, instead of having public comment, and hold public comment till after active agenda and four of us decide, or three of us decide that we don't want to do that. And then it would take one more vote to change it, a supermajority to change that, say, no, we can do that. That's why we put the supermajority in there, in case there was a split decision out here somewheres where it wouldn't.
Well, it wouldn't be a
we have
split
7.
decision if we have 7.
Well, a supermajority though means that we're all in agreement.
But a majority does 2.
No,
A majority.
necessarily.
Yeah, that's how
That just
democracy works.
decides to void. That just
I mean, that's
decides
how our
to vote.
presidential elections work.
Okay. So Ms. Hart has the floor.
It just decides to vote. 4-3 is a vote. Supermajority, like when you have it means that we all are in accord. I think that's right. Is that not right, Mr. Riley? If you have a majority, that's like a 4-3 would be a majority vote. That means more of us agree than don't. A supermajority means we all agree.
No.
No.
A supermajority.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Does it not?
No, a supermajority, there isn't actually a specified term for supermajority itself, other than more than the regular majority in this particular situation. So the supermajority can be majority plus one in this particular situation, unless you want to designate a different supermajority in your rules beyond that plus one requirement. A 2/3 vote may also be 60% was a plurality as opposed to supermajority.
Okay.
It's a technical term, but that's what
Okay.
you specify.
The majority is then a simple majority plus one vote.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I just wasn't sure I had it in my head right. And apparently I did not. So thank you for the explanation.
Okay, further questions or comments? All right, we got the question before us. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
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 I too vote no, but in the opinion of the chair, the motion carries. Yeah, sorry, I'm taking notes. Said 4 yes, 3 no. Okay. Very good. Okay, so the supermajority is then removed from this section. All right, further items on this document. We don't have to stay in section 5. We can continue moving on through. Ms. Ripley.
6.6 ordinances.
6.6,
Effective.
when ordinances are affected. Okay, what is your question
I
there?
don't think that we need the majority plus one in that one either.
And let me reread this real quick so that
6.6.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
ordinance shall take effect until 5 days after the date of its publication unless otherwise voted by statute, except an ordinance passed by a majority plus one of the whole member designated there as a public emergency. Okay, so that's specifically for a public emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you feel that a public emergency should not require a supermajority of council?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Riley, did you want to make a comment on that?
Public emergency does require a supermajority vote in this particular situation. If you're going to move for public emergency and that's means superseding, excuse me, the ordinance as written for emergency purposes.
Okay, so does that have a RCW that is attached to that, or is that?
Find it, but yes.
Okay, so that one is per
Okay.
RCW.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
it is RCW 35A.33.135, adoption of emergency ordinance.
Okay, so that RCW should be added in there.
Catch Counselor Ripley.
Madam Clerk.
See that one.
Deputy Mayor, did you say 3405-350? What was it again?
35A 33.135. I just have a list of where the supermajority is needed by RCW. So
We also got to look at 35A.
What was this? That's for a tax levy. Warren.
35A.33.135.
That's levy for ad valorem tax.
So that's not there.
That's not the.
That's not there for the emergency one.
Hmm.
Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, that's right here.
Yes, sorry. It's 35A 33-100.
100.
35A 33-100. Okay. Right, we'll make sure that is added in there. Thank you.
So that one,
Continuing on.
that's,
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Frausto.
I'd like to strike the language in 9.6.6, voting on sanctions.
9.6.6. Hold on to that a second.
It's letter F as in Frank, removal from the mayor's position, mayor's chair position requiring a majority vote plus one.
Okay, and 9.6. Give me that number again.
9.6.6 is what's appearing on my,
9.6.6. Okay.
letter F.
After moving the mayor's chair position requiring majority of 4 plus 1. Okay. And I've heard both sides of it, that there are advantages to keeping it as a majority vote plus 1 to remove the chair. And I've heard people argue against that. So I guess I want the removal of the chair to be a serious issue and that council would, as a vast majority, feel that this is necessary. I think it's something that is very serious to do. But I also understand that the other side of that, where the chair is voted in by a simple majority of the council. And so I guess I can see both sides of it. What is the opinion of council on this item? I mean, let's get some discussion on this one. Ms. Ripley.
I think it needs to be striked, majority plus one.
Okay.
I think once the mayor is voted in, it should be voted out by the same majority.
Okay.
I feel the same.
Okay. Other comments?
I feel the same, Mr. Mayor. I'm not just thinking about this situation, but I'm thinking about future situations. Granted that, future council can go in here and change it if they so please, but I think we should have it the same as a simple majority.
Okay. Ms. Hart.
I disagree. I believe that if you are going to remove the mayor from the chair's position, that you have to have a very solid, a very compelling reason to do so. As we've looked down through the different removal, the appeals, state violations, all of that, I really believe we need to take a look at that and make it recognize it as a very serious thing, not just something we do because we don't like their hair color that day or something like that. I just really think it should be a supermajority.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think that anyone, and I would hope that no council member that is voted in makes any decisions based on that type of emotion. They don't like someone's hair color or they like someone's hair color. This is serious stuff that we do. We handle policies that impact people's lives. We spoke about it actually today in the press conference. It's just anything we do, any move we make, it's going to impact the livelihoods of the people that we govern for. So I would hope, and I know that every council member here on this piece in these chambers is competent enough to make a decision or base a decision, especially as serious as this one, on fact, on matter of fact. I don't think one of us would ever stray away in that sense. I do take this very seriously. I agree with Deputy Mayor. I think we definitely have to have something in line that really just projects as democratic, and the fact that we follow a majority vote on council. If there's been many instances here where majority of my fellow council members have not voted in line with what I proposed, and I took it because majority rules. So we've been able to exercise that amongst ourselves in the past. I am hopeful that we will continue to exercise that in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Fausto. I do want to point out one thing. By removing the majority vote plus one in that paragraph, then in the next paragraph, it also needs to be removed, correct? Let me get down here a minute. I bumped the screen and everything went crazy. So on item F, it says requiring a majority vote plus one, and then 9.6.7, removal from chair position. If the violation relates to the mayor's duties, the chair of council may remove the mayor from the chair position by majority vote plus one. I'm going to suggest that if we vote one way on paragraph F, then on paragraph 9.6.7, then we're voting the same way so that it's struck from both of them.
I agree.
Okay. And if we vote to leave in the majority vote plus one, then it needs to be added to paragraph C up above. A majority vote of council is required to remove the mayor from the chair position, because we do have two separate, we have contradictory terms here. I just noticed that as I read through it. Now again, paragraph C up above on 9.6.4 does not require a supermajority, but when we go down to 9.6.6 and 9.6.7, it does require.
Well, I saw that too, and I believe C we can leave as is, because it's saying a majority vote of the council is required to remove the mayor from the chair position. The mayor will retain their council member seat, but will be relieved of all mayoral duties.
Correct. So I guess what I'm saying is that,
Oh, yeah.
however we decide to go on this one, we need to make all those paragraphs, all those sentences align.
Correct.
I got a problem with that.
Mhm.
It also allows the person being removed to bring his case up and have a committee look at it.
Oh,
And to me, you can't vote on something and remove somebody's benefits or rights or whatever you want to call it without them going back. They have to be prosecuted before they're considered guilty. That's my understanding of law. You don't just, okay, I think he did something wrong, we're gonna get rid of her or him. They have to have time to put their case forward. I don't know if that's something that we could put in here. Right now, it's like you vote them out and they're out.
Mr. Mayor.
Right, but they do have the paragraph underneath that for appeal, council member, including the mayor, may request a formal reconsideration in writing of the council's decision within 30 days.
But that's within 30 days. But it's also saying at the time of the vote, the mayor is stripped of his mayor duties, not council duties, just mayor duties. But he doesn't have time to defend himself or herself.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you want to give them time to defend themselves beforehand for the
I
vote?
don't think you can pull them right off mayorship until he goes through his process of defending or her defending themselves.
So would you like us to add a line that says pending appeal,
I think so.
that paragraph? Council, how do we feel about this?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think 9.6 and 9.6.1, that's the initiation of disciplinary action. It's my understanding that those steps have to occur before we do any of the voting. Am I wrong?
It does.
there's already a
So there's a due process there with starting with 9.6.1.
Yeah. Section 9 does give a fairly thorough process that needs to be followed, so
I've read it, and pretty soon everything just gets.
completely understand, sir. All right, so the question, we don't have a motion yet, but the question is do we wish to strike the language requiring a supermajority? Do we need to make a motion on this, or is council in agreement generally that the supermajority term needs to be removed?
Personally, I agree on this section, just like Councilor Bueller said it. He said it perfectly. That the same way that we vote in, a mayor should be the same way equally when removing.
Okay, kind of getting that sense.
Mr. Mayor.
I agree.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I move to strike +1 in section 9.6.6 subsection F and section 9.6.7.
I second it.
I had already motioned for that though.
Oh.
So
Did we have a second?
Did we have then I apologize, Ms. Frost, I didn't
I
pick up on
motioned
that.
to strike the link. I think I did. Just
Right.
saying in case parliamentary procedures have to.
I don't think she said what
I
she was
did-
striking.
Yeah, it wasn't specified what's being struck and.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, you just said.
So I apologize, Ms. Frost, I didn't pick up on the fact that you had making a motion if you were, so. So motion by
It's been a long day.
Deputy Mayor, it has.
Okay.
Second by Councilor Ripley to strike the references to the +1 supermajority in paragraphs. Let me go find them again. In 9.6.6 line F and 9.6.7. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, debate on this item? All right, all in favor of striking that from those paragraphs, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
A 2 vote no. Opinion of the chair, the motion carries. All right, moving on. Any further in this document?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
I move to strike +1 parentheses supermajority in section 10.1.
And point 1. Suspension of the rules.
Correct.
Okay, and this is not order of business. This is suspension of the rules of any type as far as allowing testimony unless somebody to come up and speak to an item before the council who hasn't been on the schedule, or longer time period for public comment, or any other general suspension of rules. Okay, currently, I've kind of been conducting it, and I know previous mayors have as well, is, if there's no objection, I take that as a supermajority if nobody objects, and have been moving forward. However, sometimes we do have to vote on it, and it does require on our rules a supermajority. The question is, do we want to remove the requirement for a supermajority on this particular item too? Mr. Beeler.
Rules are rules. We make the rules. We can change the rules at any time. Why would you have rules if you can throw them out the window anytime you want? That's my philosophy on these.
Okay, so you're in favor of keeping the supermajority?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Other comments?
I would agree with Councilman Beeler.
Okay.
All rules can be changed, but just to have it out there that you could just get rid of the rules. Maybe I can go to the chief of the police and say, I'm going to go 60 miles an hour down the YVH because I just want to suspend the rules. No, you don't do that. That's my philosophy.
Okay. Councilor Ripley.
I don't see why we need to have a supermajority plus one. If we have 7 voters, it's 4 against 3. One more, it could be 4 against 4, right?
No, 4 against 2. No, 4.
3.
I'm sorry, 5 against
5.
5 against 2.
2. 5 against 2.
I can do math. I really promise I can.
Yes.
I have a question.
That's
Would
what's
this
been
also
that's
be,
what's been
Ms.
happening
Ms.
this evening.
Ms. Vasquez.
would this also be added kind of like when we are going through our agenda and then we want to suspend the rules and take the agenda, like pause it and suspend the rules to say something? Or would that be separate?
That, I think that would fall under the same area if I remember right. Mr. Riley, do you? Yeah.
For a vote, so.
Okay.
If it comes for a vote, and again, somebody says, hey, I'd like to do something that's kind of outside the rules, and say, is there any objection from council? Council's going to, no, that's fine.
Still just couldn't suspend.
Okay.
So,
You know what, we're on this train and I agree, I agree with Councilor Ripley. I also agree with Deputy Mayor Galvan. And I still, majority of the council is for, and I think we need to uphold that. So, my vote is to strike. And you motion, so I second.
Who was the motion from?
Councilor, or
you made the
Deputy Mayor.
motion to strike the.
That's right.
Okay. So
I did
motion
hear
by the
that
Deputy
one.
Mayor. Second by Councilor Ripley.
It was me,
Sorry, I got in the habit of writing Ripley. Sorry.
for the
Councilor
record.
Frausto, thank you for that. Okay, so we have a motion by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councilor Frausto to strike the on paragraph 10.1 suspension of the rules. Is there debate on this item? All right, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
I too vote no. I'm going to go down for a roll call vote on this one, just to make sure that we're all on the same, understanding the same thing. So Mr. Beeler,
No.
Ms. Vasquez,
No.
Ms. Ripley,
Yes.
Ms. Frausto,
Yes.
Mr. Gavan,
Yes.
Ms. Hart,
No.
and I vote no. In this particular case, the noes have it. The motion did not pass.
See, this is how democracy works. I'm fine.
We stand behind it.
Yes. All right. Thank you. All right. So that's the last paragraph of the document. Is there any other items that need to be brought forward on this before we bring it up for a vote? I do want to thank all of you for taking the time to read through this. I know for myself and the Rules Committee, we've read through it so many times, the words all kind of blur together after a little while. And I'm pretty sure that some of you have got to that point through all of this as well. So thank you for taking the time and being patient with it. This is a document that has long been waiting for revision and updating, and so I'm glad that we got that done. What is the desire of council on the council rules of procedure?
Move to approve with the amendments we did to this evening.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Counselor Beeler, second by Counselor Vasquez to approve the resolution amending and adopting the city council rules of procedure and superseding and replacing previous rules of procedure. Is there debate on this item?
When was the last time these were redone?
2018,
It's due time.
2017, 2018. I think it was approved in 2018 and we worked on it in 2017, but yes, it's time.
Thank you.
That's when we lost the budget, right?
That's when that line went out of the rules of procedure. You're correct.
Mhm.
All right, other debate? Ms. Frausto.
Question, in the Rules Committee, did y'all discuss setting up like timeframes on when these would be reviewed again or some sort of cadence for review?
In the past, it's always been when a council member calls for it to be reviewed and it can be done. So if council decides that it needs to be reviewed and looked at again next year, then we can do that. I think we never did actually set up a time frame, but we did say, I think, Mr. Galvan, if you correct me if I'm wrong, that we want to meet regularly and
Yeah, there was some items that I wanted to discuss and add on there.
okay.
So we have a new rules committee. We could plan a
We can
meeting.
definitely do that. We could start talking about that in March or April and get started working on that earlier this year.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. We have I believe, yes, here we are. We have a motion on the floor any further questions, debate? All right. All in favor of approving city council rules of procedure, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. I too vote aye. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And Rules Committee, thank you for your hard work on this one. I really appreciate it. Item B, Animal Shelter Services. Approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an animal sheltering agreement with Yakima Humane Society. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like Chief Lehman to weigh in on this just a little bit. So we've worked with the Yakima Humane Society to come up with a cost-effective way to execute the legal liabilities. One thing to make clear, this is only going to provide coverage for dogs that are dangerous to bite someone. So I wanted Chief just to kind of explain some of the nuances on that. And the reality right now is that we don't have really a robust facility to house them. And one thing I want to get out there before we start this particular item is I have been talking to a few folks that are animal advocates. And February 19th, we're going to have a meeting. I'm going to try to hustle up all the animal advocates and try to come up with a solution. And I think we've tried, I know Councilor Frausto has tried really hard to get all the folks together, but sometimes it's hard. And what I like to do is just, here's the date, show up if you want to be a part of it. And for me, that's been a really effective approach. Maybe no one shows up, but who knows? But I'm going to put that out there. But I honestly got into a really good texting conversation over the weekend with Ruby Medina, who we all know has been very active and has a real passion for animals. And I just said, let's do it. And I just remembered it at this moment. So I wanted to get that out there, and I'm going to make myself a note. So Chief, forgive me for cutting you off there, but wanted to get that out there.
No problem. Animal control, we're back again. So this is what started as a contract with the Yakima Humane Society when we were providing the service to Grandview, which we have, Mr. Riley's office has sent a termination letter as far as us providing the service there, just because with code enforcement doing it part-time, it's not feasible for us to send them there for half the day to drive around. And Grandview was amenable to that. They understood. So what was $3,000 a month between the two cities, I was able to kind of hold out on the contract to where they came back several times. And she's gotten us down to $1,000 a month for 4 guaranteed bed spaces at the Humane Society. Speaking with Megan before she left, she estimated that 4 a month is about what we bring in. Some months maybe a little more, some months maybe a little less, but average of 4 a month of dangerous dogs that we're required to hold by law, that whether they bite somebody or are deemed dangerous by the Department of Health standards, and this would give us a place to put them. We do have 2 kennels out back. One was purchased by an officer when they went to they picked up a dog and had no place to put it. She went and bought it herself. She did ask me about a month ago, hey, can I take my kennel home? We're not using it. She hasn't yet, but, and then the other one I believe was donated by Tractor Supply. So this isn't a long-term solution, what we have back here by any means. It's out in the open. And this is our, talking with Derek multiple times, we think that this is probably our best and only option at this point is to sign this contract. So.
Council, questions or comments for the chief? Mr. Beeler?
Don't they also take dogs that need medical care, not just vicious dogs?
We have to call them every time we have a dog and get clearance to take it up there. This will give us 4 that they can't turn us away. I don't know if Derek, you've spoke with her once or twice, I think, as well. I'm not sure if you have.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm. You might want to step.
But anyway, that time.
So the nuance is before we didn't have guaranteed bed space. We have 4 now. Now they don't stack. It's not like if we only use 2, next month we get 6. It's 4, 4, 4, 4. Use them or lose them. But it's anything we take, those beds, we could use them for that, but it's the priority is always going to be dangerous animals. And then, yeah, I mean, animal cruelty or just where that will be a different deal with them, especially if we were to come across, say, like multiple animals. Can't believe I'm drawing like the breeding farms with the bad ones. They call them some
Puppy mill.
Puppy mill, you know, and it's just atrocious. And we got all these duck. That's a different duck. Individual units, that'll be on a case by case situation.
So what I just heard was even though they're not vicious animals, they will take 4 animals from us no matter what, a month.
I don't recall it having a specific.
I believe so.
But we pay for each of those animals.
Right.
But what we take in on average is 4 a month.
Right.
That we're required to take by law. So we want to save those space for those dogs that bite somebody or are deemed dangerous. Because if we fill it up with strays by the 5th and we get 4 bite dogs the rest of the month, I don't know what we're going to do. So
exactly.
Yeah. The intent would be to hold those spaces specifically for dogs that were required by law to hold. Because if a dog's deemed dangerous or bites somebody, we're required by law to hold it for 10 days. So.
Okay, Ms. Ripley.
You know, I've seen the animal control go out there and they put the animals back in people's backyards. They're glorified babysitters. We need to make the people more responsible for their animals. Why is the city paying for animal control for people's animals that they let loose to go out to the bathroom?
I don't, in my weekly report, were the stats included for tickets by animal control over the last 2 years? I don't know if you,
No tickets,
is that in there?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Okay, in my weekly report, let me find it here. Because I can give you the stats on how many tickets she wrote, but you also got to remember, yes, you are correct. However, if we write $130 ticket, the city sees, Debbie would probably know, maybe $15 of that. Most of that fines go to the state. And that's a speeding ticket. And people say, oh, the cops are trying to fund the city by speeding tickets. We don't see that money.
So we pay $1,000 a month. Do we still pay $110 per animal?
No, this would be what.
That would be the included, okay.
So my direction to Megan was, and it's what I've got from you guys, basically the things you're saying right now. I told her, I said, we're done with breaks, make people accountable. So 2023 is easy. She wrote 7 tickets, 1 for a loud dog at large, or 5 for a loud dog at large under a different code. And then 1 keeping a dangerous dog without a license. So that was 2023, 7 tickets. 2024, she wrote 2 no dog license, 12 more under a different code. So 14 no dog license, failure to control a level 1 dog, 10 tickets, failure to control a level 4 dog, 1 ticket, control of a potentially dangerous dog, 2 tickets, and then a loud dog at large, she wrote 32 for loose dogs in 2024. So 30, 40, 50, almost 60 tickets from 7. So there was an increase.
Well, the one that I saw her put in the yard was no collar, a little ankle biter. I called the police and told them that, hey, I was out for a walk. and this dog was after me. And so Megan, she came right away, but she told me that I was antagonizing, the dog was antagonized by me there. I better go ahead and stroll on home. And the dog was back there. The dog was back there for over a week. And they said, that's not my dog. And that just gets me.
Oh, I can understand that.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So I guess help me understand, are they kind of forcing us to go into a monthly contract, or why can't we just stay at $110 per dog? And, you know, we recently approved 3 dogs and a cat for $440.
So they're not doing per dog contracts anymore. This was the big change this year with the Humane Society, that this is what had the chiefs all up in arms, was we were trying to figure out these large contracts they were wanting, $3,000 between us and Grandview. So they're wanting to guarantee us bed space, but they're making us pay for it. So they're no longer doing a per dog contract.
That's such a.
Okay. I mean,
That
I'm
was
on
my
the same, I'm on the same boat with Councilor Ripley. I mean, I think we need to increase these fines, give more fines out, and the problem's gonna stop. You know, we're gonna have community members think twice before they get a dog and not take care of it and not feed it and just let it roam. If these fines are tripled, then so be it. If we don't get the money and the state gets it, then so be it. But at least it takes care of an issue, and it kind of educates the public as to take care of your dogs.
All right, Mr. Beeler.
So we have 4 dogs in scenario. What happens to the 5th dog?
No, we're gonna beg them to take it. We're gonna try and tell them last month we brought 3, will you take the 5th? But there's no guarantee that they'll take it. We might have to put it back here, which is not the best situation. But
Yeah, and
Ms. Vasquez.
and that was exactly the same question I had in mind right now. So I was gonna ask the same because let's say you already used up the 4 spaces for that 1 month, and then we have a 5th or a 6th, and they're very dangerous animals. Like what then? Like, is there gonna be an option where the city can pay an additional fee in order to secure a spot? Is that something that you've been able to ask, or?
I have not asked her that question.
So maybe, I mean, I'd be interested to see their response to that.
Derek?
Okay. Ms. Fausto.
What does council feel about maybe tabling this? And I know city manager, you just mentioned there might be a meeting on the 19th.
I was just thinking that
Maybe help
too.
us make a
Yeah.
more informed decision. And I hope that we can get our only pet clinic in
That's-
the room. We
that's-
can get some of these, some animal foster folks in the room.
But I think you have to look at it 2 separate ways. We have a stray problem, yes, they can help with, and we have a required to hold Department of Health dangerous dog problem. We're trying to solve the dangerous dog problem because by law, we have to do that. The animal lover people aren't going to take in a dog that bit somebody.
So we
They
don't,
have to be quarantined and they have to have 6-sided kennels. There's a lot of requirements on a dog that bit somebody.
does this contract the solution then?
Well, and I mean, I guess we could contract with the vet over here, but I don't think they're gonna want dangerous dogs down there where they've got somebody's fluffy down there in the kennel next to it, And I don't know how much space she has over there or anything like that, but this is strictly to solve the dangerous dog problem. We don't by law required to pick up strays. So we're looking at the ones that we're required by law to hold. And that's what this contract solves.
So the meeting on the 19th is completely different. This is for stray dogs.
That could be picking up stray dogs, trying to place them or something to that effect, yes.
The last thing, my God, I think I'm losing my voice. The last thing we want is the public messing around with a dangerous dog. That's what we're here for, and that's what we do. And there's processes that need to be followed and dealt with. So that's what this is here to address. Just like Chief said, it's the what we're required under law to maintain. The other stuff we have time and potentially grace to be able to work through and find out a program or plan that works best for us. But when it comes to the dangerous animal situation, I really feel that this is what we need to do at this time, maybe at a later date or something else. We can get things different. But we're kind of in a pinch right now. And I think that this will at least fill that gap and like I said, start moving us forward. What happens on the 19th, these people shouldn't be messing with the animals that we're talking about in this case, primarily speaking.
Well, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor,
Ms. Fausto.
according to a lot of community animal foster and rescues, they have been dealing with this and they've been dealing with hundreds of animals and many of them which are dangerous, and they've been taking it into their own hands. So because either we haven't had room, we haven't had the capacity to deal with it, so forth. I don't know if y'all have heard anything different.
Yes.
And I would ask, is that the way we want it done, or is it are they doing it because that's what they want to do, or is it because they're trying to step in and fill a gap where
I think it's the latter,
And-
which were the
and-
gap.
and we're trying to start filling that gap again? There was a period of time where we had a shift. That's what we're trying to shift out of into this. So that's why I'm in agreement with Chief Lehman that this is a contract that we should sign in order to make sure that we have coverage. The other stuff can always be added to this. And at a later date, if we deem that it's no longer necessary, we can always separate from that contract
Councilor.
with adequate notice.
One of the things I'm just curious about, and this could be to the city manager's chief, is that if we don't have something in place to deal with dangerous dogs, and I'm talking about, even though some of the rescue groups maybe have been, if something happens to them on their property with a dangerous dog, who do they come back on? Do they come back on whoever the person was who brought them the dog? I mean, I'm just thinking about insurance ensuing litigations. If we don't have something in play that says we are going to handle dangerous dogs this way. And as Mr. Bracken has said, to the effect that if we could come up when we are able to put in our own shelter, then we can handle, or whatever process we come up with, that will be a whole different issue. And I agree with what you're suggesting over there, Mr. Bracken and Chief, but I just think that we need to be cautious of the fact that there's litigation available. I mean, I had a police officer come to my door one day, said my little Yorkie had bit him. And I looked at him and like, when did you see my Yorkie? Because it was a house dog, didn't go outside. And I was, he went away. But what I'm saying is there's litigation involved. We have to be conscious of that, I think.
Ms. Ripley, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I do understand about paying the 1,000 to the Humane Society. And, for the dangerous dogs, those do need to be taken care of, but we also have a stray dog problem that we need to deal with also, figure that out, make them get licenses and, go that route.
And I think you're 100% correct, Ms. Ripley. And I think the question that we're dealing with is the dangerous dogs tonight and not the stray dogs. So Ms. Vasquez.
I have another question. So you said on average, you guys get around 4 animals that are dangerous a month?
That's what Megan came up with when I asked her.
Okay, and then as of what you're aware of, in January, has there been any dangerous dogs so far?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so I have another question. So this contract goes into effect January 1st, 2025. So we'd be paying $1,000 for the month of January when there's 4 days left for this month.
No, the contract would take place when we execute it. But Derek now handles animal control. It falls under him. I don't know if they've picked up any dangerous dogs. I can't answer that. Derek, no. Okay.
Because the contract right here, it says effective January 1st, 2025.
But we would amend that because we haven't signed it yet.
Okay, so we could amend.
We're not going to pay for a month.
So we'd be able to move that to February.
We wouldn't approve it.
Okay, correct.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them $1,000 for nothing.
Okay.
All right,
No.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, you keep the mention of dangerous dogs and the requirements that the state has on the city. Do you have an RCW for that?
I don't, because I have not had the dangerous dog training, but I know it's a 10-day hold. I think it's through the Department of Health.
The SMC of that is chapter 6. And you've got the nurse deputy.
Can you turn on your mic, please?
Yeah, you speak in the mic, sir.
The SMC for that is chapter 6.04 for dog control. With and then the dangerous dog section, I believe, is 604340.
Is that an RCW or is that in the SMC?
That's the SMC. The RCW is 1608-100.
Okay. Further discussion on this item? Again, reminder, the question is the dangerous dogs and approve a contract for $1,000 a month with the Humane Society to take dangerous dogs to hold them as we are required. And this is not dealing with our stray dog question. We definitely have a stray dog question. And I would hope that the meeting on the 19th would take that discussion very seriously and we'd be able to start making some progress towards maybe not necessarily a solution, but maybe moving in the right direction. Mrs. Vasquez.
One last question. I already brought it up, but could you just ask if, like, worst case scenario, there's a fifth, sixth dog, if there's an additional fee that the city would pay or how that would work?
Yes, so contrary to what some people might think, I don't play solitaire on this computer. I've already sent an email to her and this is what I asked her. I said, I took this contract to council and the question was brought up. If we have more than 4 dogs in a month, would you take them and or what would the charge be? If we pay for 4 dogs a month, 48 dogs a year, would we be able to use 2 1 month and maybe 6 the following? I think we see more dogs during certain times of the year. This was a concern of council. So I've already sent that to her. So I'm hopefully getting an answer tomorrow.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Frausto.
I'd actually like to table this item until we get that information back.
Yep.
Is there a way, if there is a motion on the table, once the motion is made, could we actually vote to get this on the next agenda? I know it's a study session, but it would be, we'd take action on it.
We don't have a motion currently on the table, so if council wants, if you want to make a motion to table this item, we can do that. And you can be specific that you want it on the next council meeting. That would be next week, Monday.
Yeah.
Well, when's the meeting? The 19th, February?
The next,
Yeah.
The
next regular meeting?
No, the meeting that she's.
Animal
I'm
advocate
talking
meeting.
Oh, on the 19th February.
The third
At least until
would be
we
the
have that
following Monday
information
to get the response,
When is the,
but then we wouldn't be able to take action until.
And I can, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I can try to move that meeting up. The 19th was a day that I picked out to give people enough heads up. It was a very organic conversation. And the 19th, I was looking at the calendar as I was speaking to the person. I can certainly try to move it up. It's just a matter of getting people there. I wanted enough people, give them enough leeway and time to get there, because I do feel like there needs to be a discussion on this. And my gut tells me it might be, because I mean, we have 2 separate issues. You have dangerous dogs versus strays. And, it's our statutory obligation. And the fundamental problem I see from a risk standpoint, if you don't have those slots available and we get Cujo out there that's on the streets, and it puts us at liability risk. So you hate paying for things you're not going to use, but it's kind of like insurance in a way. And I think the other thing that I'm hearing from our animal advocates is, we have citizens out there catching dogs on their own volition, which is, it's scary. I mean, they do it at their own accord, but at the same time, it's risky and they're doing it on behalf of the city is their feeling, although they're not a part of our organization, obviously. But so there is that part. And then also, I'm hearing that, people have felt like we haven't been really communicative with them. So I think we owe that to people that want to come to the table and figure out a solution. And we just haven't had the conversation, but it's time to start having the conversation. Because you laugh and you cry at the same time. Every day there's a little cute dog. I usually keep my window open on the corner. There's not a day that a little cute dog doesn't run by and I want to grab it. But
to bite you?
Yeah, but yeah, we've got to solve the issue, and it's definitely a multi-layered issue because, there's the age-old debate of kill shelter versus the shelters that, and that's like, with animal advocates, you can't say that. And, I'm not saying I advocate for that, but adopting pets out, we're in this environment. I have a dog and gosh, dog, it eats a lot and he's expensive, and it's just sort of the way it is in this economic environment. It's tough. If you have 2, 3 dogs, it's tough to maintain it. So anyhow, but the 19th, I'll get more information about that out to the public and hopefully have a really good conversation.
Okay, so what is the desire of council on this item?
I would like to make a motion to approve the Yakima Humane Society contract for the $12,000 a year for the beds, guaranteed beds at the Yakima Society, Humane Society.
I would like to second that because that's the only place you can really take a vicious or a at-large dog like that. You can't home it or have somebody take care of it. And we need a place to put them. They can't stay behind the police department.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Beeler to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an animal sheltering agreement with Yakima Humane Society. Debate on this item.
Not a debate, but I have a question. So
Okay.
I believe Councilor Frosso wanted to table it until we got back from the email, correct? Or was that after the event?
I didn't motion for it. I just, thought
Okay.
it was just an idea
Okay.
to get
We
us
did-
kind
we-
of thinking about it. There is a termination for cause here. I know there's a motion on the table. We have to take it for a vote, but we do get to terminate with 30 calendar days communication in advance. So there is room for termination on
Right.
here if we decide to go that way. And I guess for liability purposes, maybe
Maybe we should, yeah.
we can.
And a reminder that this is for vicious dogs. This is not for every stray that comes across our way. We will still need the input of those individuals, whether the meeting happens on the 19th or on another day. We still are going to rely on their input. And so this is only for the vicious dogs. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I have something. This RCW says dangerous dogs, the definition kills a domestic animal without provocation while the dog is off the owner's property or has been previously found to be potential dangerous because of injury inflicted on a human. Inflicted on a human. So do we have an average 4 dogs that kill domestic animals and bite people in Sunnyside?
Cats. A lot of cats.
If you have a dog that's chasing somebody and trying to bite their legs, that probably happens. As a police officer that's worked the streets, I've been bit several times.
Okay,
Postman gets bit a lot too.
okay.
Okay, Ms. Ripley?
Can we only turn in dangerous dogs? Or like if we catch 3 dangerous dogs and 1 stray, can?
If it's the last day of the month, sure.
Uh-huh.
We could take the stray up there.
To get.
But we don't want to take end up with
Yeah,
a dangerous
yeah.
dog if we've used our 4 and then we don't have anything to do with it. Yeah. And she might be able to answer, if I get these answers back, that might change our
Uh-huh.
cost structure past 4. Or I don't know. We'll have to see what she says.
Okay. Further debate? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no.
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 Okay, I vote aye. In the decision of the chair, the motion passes 5-2.
Counselor Fausto, did you vote yes or no?
Did you vote, Councilor Fausto?
I voted yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your discussion. I know this is a difficult and often emotional issue. And yeah, we do have to come up with a solution, and we're not fully there yet. This is not going to solve the problem. Item C, pool discussion continued. If you'll recall at our last study session, we had a rather in-depth discussion about the pool. Want to continue that on. So, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I definitely wanted Debbie here to weigh in a little bit from a financial perspective and Raul to revisit this because I've gotten quite a few questions. This is certainly a hot topic in the community. It's very emotional, and I'm learning. The pool dates back, and I think everybody has a great memory of the pool when they were a kid, and so it's a very heartfelt subject. So also wanted to weigh in with continue to get the facts out there because there is a real cost to it. And, I probably monitor social media more than I should. But, I'm constantly on there, and there was a few narratives out there that perhaps some community members weren't believing what it cost to run it. And it is hard to believe that, there's that much cost to run a pool. And we certainly aren't trying to make money off the pool. That's not the intent. The pool is really a community asset to help the kids. And when it's hot in our summer months, so, I want to get that out there, is that we certainly aren't trying to make money, but we still have to have a safe pool. We have to have one that's clean, and it does take a tremendous amount of work. So I've learned a lot about pools this year, and I think we all have, but we're doing everything that we can humanly possible to see if we can raise some donations. Had a really good conversation. I visited Rotary I think it was last Wednesday, as a matter of fact, and that they said they are committed to helping us fund the pool in some capacity. The numbers have varied. I don't want to put anything on the record, but the men and women of the Rotary, of the Morning Rotary in particular, said, we got you guys, and we'll definitely help you out. So that was really encouraging to hear. I've heard from the swim team. I know they want to volunteer in some capacity. I'm scheduled to speak with them February 11th. So if any council members would like to be a part of that conversation, definitely would love 3 there. So we don't have a quorum, but it'd be great if anybody wants to step up and be there.
The 11th?
February 11th, and I'm 99.9% sure. If you can give me just a second to confirm that. Hang on. February 11th. Yep, 11 a.m. at City Hall in the conference room. So yeah, it would be great to have council members there and have a good, robust conversation with them, because I think they also want to volunteer a little bit and help us out as much as we can. But again, the intent to revisit this was to talk a little bit about the numbers again and re-clarify and show again what it costs to run the pool. And the finance committee came in and did a good job. I had to run out of the meeting. But it sounds like you guys came up with some good ideas as well. I think the other thing we've been talking about is a utility tax increase to fund the pool on a short-term basis while we come up with some long-term strategies. That is the one tool that you have in your toolbox that you could execute relatively quickly. It would solve the problem rather quickly. We certainly could supplement with whatever Rotary is able to provide. And so I know it's a lot of stuff to get out there at once, but I wanted to kind of put all that out there. And again, let the public know we've been really working hard, on presentations, funding mechanisms, then ultimately to be very transparent with the public of what it costs. Because honestly, it was shocking to me what it cost to run the pool, but it's a reality. So with that, I'll turn it over to Raul Sanchez, Public Works. He's been working hard he worked hard on his presentation, and we'll revisit it. And Jackie, you're able to pull that presentation up again. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. So yes, just the way we covered it last Monday, we went over the revenues and expenditures for the pool. We also went over the staffing requirements based on the size of the pool and the sessions that take place, the rentals and the staffing that we need to have there. So we covered some of that. We also went over some of the expenses, some of the equipment that we also need to replace. So looking up at the screen right now, you will see just right there, we can start right there with the $90,000 that is covering some of the benefits to the employees, unemployment compensations, office and operating supplies, IT services, utility services, repair and maintenance, some miscellaneous is certain could be some fees that are for Department of Health that are under that as well. Under the equipment repair, there's a chlorine injector pump, filters, the vacuum pump, hoses that need to be replaced, and it's around $55,000. The 35,000 is in case during the season, if there is anything that would need to be replaced or any kind of maintenance to, whether you brought in an electrician, a plumber, or something that needed to do any kind of work there, we would need to have a fund there to cover those expenses if need to. So that's what those costs are there for. We go to the next slide. Those are some of the revenues and costs that we came up with. Just trying to break down some of the hours of some of the full-time staff with the hours of the pool staff, to just show you in comparison to what comes in versus what's costing the city to run that pool. Next slide. Okay. So right there, you're looking at cost of chemicals to run the pool for the season. You're looking at the seasonal employees that is required to make this happen. And then you have a breakdown of some of the city employees, then the time that they spend there checking on the pool, whether it's getting it ready, getting it cleaned up at the beginning of the year, through the season, and then obviously the time it takes after that to start shutting everything down to the point of also winterizing it and things like that. So anyways, that's what we covered last time. Any questions beyond that? Just like city manager said, there's some options that we talked about. They're temporary options, whether it's somebody else wanting to donate or finding a sponsors. But long-term, we still have to be able to fund this on our own. Right now, we obviously don't have that funding, and that's what we need to talk about.
Council, questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Bueller.
How many weeks is the pool open in the summertime?
It varies between 9 and 10, depending on when school gets out versus also when school starts back up. But typically it's around the first to second week in August, because then whether some of the lifeguards are going to college or they're just getting ready to go back to school, they'll start leaving. And once we start losing the lifeguards, then we have no option but to close it.
So we're funding a pool for almost 300,000 for 10 weeks.
Correct.
And we're not opening the center, but we don't have a cost on that, and it's open year round.
A cost for what?
The rec center.
To
Community center.
what?
Community center.
Revenue?
Center.
To run that for the year. We never gotten a whole cost on that like we have the swimming pool.
Well, that would just be staff. As far as revenues, we did.
Well, I saw the revenue.
Yeah,
but
it's only about $11,000 in rentals.
But how much does it cost?
Mm,
Does it cost almost $400,000 to keep a community center open all year as opposed to a pool for 10 weeks?
It's about 700, right?
Well, it's utilities and maintenance.
And
We're not,
employees?
we don't necessarily have employees right now manning the community center full time.
Mr. Mayor, I think, Mr. Bueller, your question is how much on, when the community center was open, how much was it costing us?
Yeah,
to
well,
operate
you
it?
know, we're always worried about the kids and give the kids something to do. And we're working on 10 weeks versus
All year.
12 months
12 months.
Yeah.
of giving kids something to do and parents and everything else, just like the pool does. I think it's a lot less expensive if we keep the community center open. And I didn't really realize it until I started looking at the numbers. We all love the swimming pool. My grandkids, they learned to swim in the swimming pool and they swim like fish now. And I went there every day and sat there in the bleachers like everybody else. And it was wonderful. But we don't have the funds, and the time is coming up close. And we also don't have the rec center open, which I think would be a lot easier. And it would fill the whole year of something for the kids to do. So that's just something I thought of.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, you want to respond?
Deputy Mayor, oops. Did you want to go first? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
So we met, Finance Subcommittee met. Thank you, Raul, Ms. Sable. We missed Ms. Vasquez, but Ms. Ripley was there. And they were able to give us the line by line items of the expenditures. And, you know, in combination of going through line by line to seeing what is an expense that we are not going to need in 2025. I agree with Raul to, you know, give him a list, and then we were going to talk, you know, it's okay, yes, we do need that, or no, we don't need that in 2025. So I think a combination of doing that. We also discussed grant opportunities, also cutting the pool days, either, you know, cutting the Sunday, closing off on Sunday and Monday. It's just discussions right now. We're just bouncing back ideas in the subcommittee right now. Another of the ideas was, you know, maybe increasing the rental fees. The pool didn't really generate a lot of rental fees in 2024, and that's when people want to buy or want to rent the pool after hours, after 7 p.m., if I remember. I think we're a little bit lower than what other cities charge, like Prosser. And it's just, and then another idea was, you know, the sponsors and maybe having businesses in the community, you know, buy a space on the fence, you know, surrounding the pool where, you know, we're going to charge them so much and they'll be able to have it there for a year. But that revenue is going to go towards, you know, operating the pool. One of the grants, you know, that I mentioned in the meeting was the T-Mobile. Another one that I didn't mention was the Legends Casino grant. We always have a possibility there to you know, file or, you know, get an application in for additional revenue. So it's stuff that we're bouncing back and forth, and, you know, I'm fully committed and not only doing a increase in the tax and the utility tax, but like I said, right, I'm gonna go through and make sure that we don't have stuff in the pool expenditures that we no longer need, because, you know, for example, one of them was the ARPA for a new diving board, which is $13,000. You know, that's part of the 2024, you know, expenditures. We don't need a new diving board. Another one was the ARPA for the painting. We're not going to paint the exterior of the building. There's a lot of stuff that we definitely could cut and, you know, bring it down to 300. Ms. Sable said that might be a realistic number. But knowing me, I'm going to push the envelope and maybe even cut it more. But if we're able to prove or show to the community that we're doing this, and, you know, we're partnering up with businesses and community leaders or groups, you know, they might be open for a little bit of a utility tax, temporary. So I'm fully committed to doing this.
And I appreciate that there, Mr. Deputy Mayor. That kind of attitude is what actually is going to help us get through this and to be able to operate, whether it's the pool or the community center or both or one or the other, I don't know. But that is going to be the job of council this current year. So, Ms. Frausto.
Question, I was on the restroom, so I don't know if this was brought up. Did the finance committee already meet regarding this? Did y'all?
We met today.
Oh, just today? Okay. So next steps, where is this going?
So they were able to provide the expenditures for 2024. So Councilor Ripley is going to go through them. I'm going to go through them and kind of bounce ideas or suggestions to Raul to see if it's something that can be cut for 2025. And, you know, between that and sponsorships, like I said, you know, I think we could definitely make something happen along with the utility tax.
So what we're looking for here is direction from council on what we would like staff to do. And it sounds like you guys have taken some really good first steps, but remember that we are on a very short timeline because there are certain things that need to be decided here before the end of February. Some of these things they would love to have decided before the end of January, but we're getting really close to the end of January. So What would council like to see happen in regards to the pool? Would you like to see us look for ways to fund it and continue this work, or perhaps direct our attention more towards the community center?
Yeah, one of the things that I think that we really need to consider is, because there is this timeline, and one of the timelines is, if I remember correctly, is we need to, and it showed on the slide earlier just a few minutes ago, the materials to do the chemical injection, is that what it's called? We need to get that ordered. If we're going to have the pool opened for this season for any length of time, we need to have that chemical bunch of equipment. We need to get that ordered. And if I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about
55,000.
55,000, which we probably have that in our fund, right? Am I right?
No, it's not budgeted for that at all. There would have to be.
So the only things budgeted at this point
Mhm.
is for the insurance
Correct. And utilities.
and the utilities.
And it's reducing the insurance from being an active pool to a closed pool.
So we would have to up those things if we decided to have the pool open for, should we be able to come up with the money, we would have to up that amount of money as well for the insurance. We need to be able to have it ready to go, should we be able to come up with the money. So we need to allow the $55,000 so we can get those repairs made. So it is ready to go when we do have some money, when we can find this money through these different things we've been talking about tonight. But I think we need to really look at that, because it makes no sense to sit here, and what we want it to be open for is so that kids can play in the pool and adults can be in the pool with their families. But we can't do that at all until we have the repairs made. So I think we should look at that, get that budgeted. And at the same time that we're going ahead and moving ahead with, maybe we're working with the community, getting some quotes from the community, some buy-in from the community, those signs along the side of like they do at the football, at the basketball fields or gyms, and in the football fields where people have donated. That can raise some pretty good change, I think. Maybe not $300,000 worth, but certainly some. So, but I really think we got to take into consideration, if it's not ready to go when we have the money to go, and if we have already lowered the cost of our insurance, and then we're going to have to turn right around and raise it again, because it will be an active pool, we need to be cautious of those things as well. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. A question has occurred to me, and Raul, you probably have the answer. This cost for repairing that injector pump for the chemicals, is that to repair it or to replace it?
Replace it.
Is it non-repairable?
Well, it's old, and the parts, there used to be a couple of them, parts from the other ones have been used over time to keep limping this one along.
Mhm.
And it's gotten to that point where now it's nothing left to use to limp this one along. I was telling Deputy Mayor today, it can run, but the problem is because we don't have any parts and it's older, and if it fails once the season starts and now we're going to be down, that's also going to create another issue. The reason that these were intended to be replaced at the end of last year was because when the pool was going to go down, we were going to order all this stuff, because we also under the assumption that we had this ARPA money that we were going to buy this equipment with, as well as other things that were under ARPA for the pool, because there was an ARPA fund there for these items. So going back to what you were saying earlier about some of the stuff under 2024, under ARPA, those were all because under the assumption that we had money allocated for the pool, and that's how those things were being paid outside of just the pool regular expenses. Normally, those things probably would have never happened because the pool didn't have that extra revenue to be paying for that. But because there was money allocated from ARPA, that's how some of these things were done. But anyways, yes. And then the other thing too is in order to order these things, we want to make sure that we order it sometime no later than next month because we have X amount of weeks that we need to make sure that we get everything, the parts are right, getting them installed, testing it, and it's ready to go.
So these parts that we need are not available anywhere anymore?
Well, it's a new pump. Yes, we can order the pump.
No, I'm talking about the parts. I mean, the parts, I mean, you've replaced parts on the pump and so now you don't have any more parts. I mean, the parts that need to be replaced, they can't be purchased anywhere?
Well, we could try and see, but the pump itself is just really old and outdated. It's been for years. And we were looking at replacing it. The pump itself is around $8,000.
Okay, that's a far cry from 55,000. So,
Well, but that's not counting the filters. The filters are now in the 30-some thousand dollars for 32 filters to replace all of them, plus the hoses and stuff for the other. So we're just right around that 40-some thousand dollars. But I had put 55 and you got taxes and in case there's any kind of labor to some of that.
I guess I'm just trying to find a way that we could do some of these repairs, some of this maintenance and do it a little bit more inexpensively. Hopefully make it a couple of more years so that we can start getting up and running. And it's my mindset, right? I'm self-employed. I have equipment. It has to be running all the time and I better be able to fix it on the fly. And I've learned how to do that. And so that's kind of where my mind goes. There's got to be a way to put this together, to make it work, to keep things functioning, to keep running. And so,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, Ms. Rosto.
How much more time, the finance committee, how much more time do y'all need in order to go back and revisit some of these expenses and will it align with maybe the time frame that Councilor Hart speaking of to get these things ordered or find the money to get these things ordered so the pool can operate at the time that we needed to be operating? So two questions.
What do you think, sir?
How much more time and
I mean, I'll do my homework tonight and tomorrow, and then get back to Raul hopefully by Wednesday. And maybe we can meet again, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, whatever works for the subcommittee meeting or committee. But yeah, I mean, whatever time it takes, let's make it happen. And I understand Ms. Hart's concerns of getting the 55,000, but where do we get it without increasing the tax, utility tax? Is that something that we want to do at the next meeting? Do we want to increase the tax so we could get that started? And at the same time, we could work on this. So.
And Mr. Mayor, since I was talking to a member of Rotary and I talked about the pump and I suggested, maybe that is where Rotary can step in and take care of the pump. So that individual said he would take it back to Rotary and see maybe, because I think that would be the most impactful because, as I look at the situation, so the lifeguards are an issue. We have to really get on that soon. And I think here's the fundamental problem. I think there's cuts that can be made. Deputy Mayor, certainly no question. We can go through with a fine tooth comb, but I don't think financially. Here's the reality. If we don't do the utility tax, in my opinion, unless I'm, everybody can call me out if I'm wrong, I don't think the pool opens without the utility tax. So my recommendation really is, look, we'll fine tooth it with the comb or whatever the statement is. You go through with a fine tooth comb. We do the utility tax. I lobby with, I guess I can't officially lobby. So I talked to Rotary and asked them to make a donation. We continue to work with community partners. And I also wanted to get a little bit more detail for the public. And this is what I've been told, or this is my perception, per 1% equals roughly about $150,000 that we raise. And then, obviously like with each bill, because we have a base rate bill for residential and obviously commercial has, but if I have a base rate bill, it's about $2.50 per month increase essentially, is what, if you have the base rate is what it would be.
Right.
Right. So, and And I'm always careful because, $2.50 to someone is a lot and perhaps to somebody else it's not. They buy a cup of coffee every day. So I don't want to ever say that, it's only $2.50 because it's a lot to some folks and I'm very conscious of that. But I also wanted to get that out there. And, I was kind of reflecting and talking with Debbie today, a lot of times you forget we support these endeavors because one day somebody came here, I forget who it was, and said, I don't use the pool, I don't care, but we pay for an ambulance district that not everybody's going to use the ambulance. We pay, most of our tax dollars go to schools and things of this nature for the betterment of the community. It's better that we have an ambulance district and it's great. We pay into that to have educated people in society. So anyhow, I'm going to stop rambling, but those are just some things to put out there. Because I really don't, unless we do the utility tax, and again, we can stop that, and that'll give me the opportunity to find long-term solutions. We all hate taxes, no one likes them, but man, this would go for a specific purpose. Give us the time to search out those long-term solutions, and then have the pool for this year. Take that stress off everybody's mind, but you guys are the policymakers but that's my recommendation.
What I'm hearing from council is that you would like our finance committee and staff to continue working towards if they can possibly find ways to open the pool. I'm seeing heads being nodding. Ms. Ripley?
I think the city manager is right. There is no way to fund the pool unless we raise the utility tax. And I hate doing that, but if we want the pool open, I think that's what we're going to have to do. And yeah, I had heard that it calculated out to $2.50 or $3 a month. And hey, I would do it.
All right. So sounds as if council's agreement. I agree with Ms. Ripley. I think that's, and yourself, sir, I think that's probably the route that we're going to have to go if we're going to do anything. But if you guys are going to continue to work on that as a finance committee, I think that we can see a solution. Mr. Beeler.
And if and when we do raise utility tax, Mayor Pro Tem should not stop on saving money.
Correct.
And
I
think-
will agree with that as well.
Yes, and I think we're in agreement on that.
Okay. So I'll make council's direction is to continue working. Next item on the agenda is community center discussion continued.
I still had a question on that.
Ms. Frausto, I am sorry. Question.
So when would we bring the utility increase for a vote?
I would assume it would be sometime yet February or perhaps the very beginning of March.
Can we do it sooner than that?
But do we have to do it sooner? Yeah.
We need
Okay.
to do it sooner.
That, as is deemed necessary, council can make that vote at any time. I think there's got to be a public hearing in order to do that. So we will have, that's why I'm thinking sometime February, perhaps maybe early March, but I think, don't we have to do a utility rate? Don't we have to do a public hearing?
For utility tax, I don't believe you do.
Okay.
We just have to make a motion and we can only
It's-
do 1%.
I'm sorry, what?
Remember, is it just
Yeah.
1%?
No,
No.
that's your,
That's the real estate or property tax.
No.
That's our property
You
tax.
can,
the
you could
ad
do
valorem.
utility tax or any percentage.
Yeah,
You
but
would-
we were talking about, I'm sorry, not to.
Yeah, no, we would just have to have an ordinance and then we'd have to do the publication and it's effective the 5 days after that.
Okay. So that can be done in February. So, and our next meeting will be February. So,
One more question.
yes, Ms.
And
Vasquez.
our city manager stated that we could put that to an end. What would you be aiming towards to end that?
Timeframe, yeah.
obviously it would depend on when it officially went into effect. And ultimately what it generates per year. So I think we'd have to nuance that. I don't want to say, well, we need to do it, but so if whatever perspective you can lend.
The utility tax is at council's discretion. It's your discretion at any time during the year to change it. If you don't want it, you can eliminate it, you can reduce it, you can increase it. It just requires, to follow the ordinance process. So if it comes to a point, at the end of December, that this is just not working, maybe there's no utility tax for the swimming pool for next year. Maybe it goes until there's some other type of revenue stream that can be determined, and then it ends.
But I think for the sake of the community, it would be great if we would put in this, if we were going to vote in favor of that, it would sunset at a certain period of time.
And that's when the pool would sunset also. When the money goes away, the pool goes away.
So you're suggesting it's never going to function out of the general fund again?
Not unless we have some really great sales tax revenue or property tax revenues increase. So our primary sources of revenue for the general fund are property tax, sales tax, utility tax. It supports all police, general services, parks, which are free to everyone. So we spend a lot of money maintaining parks for people to have that enjoyment to go to parks.
Okay, so we take all of that into consideration. But yeah, this utility tax can be enacted when we're ready to do that.
I would like to, excuse me,
Go ahead, Ms. Hart, yes.
I would like to suggest we go ahead and move forward with the utility tax for the swimming pool to come back before us at a proper amount, whether that is 1% or if it's 1.5% or whatever we can eke out. It's half a cup of Starbucks, and or if you have a coupon, but I think we need to do it, and understanding, of course, that this may, if we I don't think we want to look at it as a temporary thing. I think we're going to need to look at it as, if we're going to do the pool, then we got to, everybody, it's the fairest way to do it is through the utility tax. But I do think we need to look, but I would like to direct the city staff to commence with getting the utility tax ready for us to vote on.
For the record, I am already getting pushback on raising the utility tax without a public hearing. I've already received 2 texts from that. So I'm thinking a public hearing might not be a bad idea just for the sake of the public. People do not want their taxes raised without a chance to have some input. So be aware of that. We do represent real people here in this town, and if they want to have some input, we need to give them that input. So let's be aware of that as well. Okay, we do need to keep going here. So the next item is discussion of the community center. And Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, I wanted to continue this conversation because we have upgraded the website and it's still a work in progress, but kudos to Raul and also to our clerk, Jacqueline Renteria. They've done a really good job, keeping the ball moving forward. And the community center and Councilman Beeler brought up a lot of good points, and the community center cost quite a bit of money to run, and we did have to let the 3 employees go. The cost was, I want to say, between, just so it's on the record, I believe around $275,000 for 3 employees. Yeah, that's with full benefits, retirement. One of the problems that we had was really creating programs that were fruitful. They were doing a pretty good job, I believe, with T-ball and soccer, but there wasn't a ton happening out there. We were getting a lot of pushback for opening up at 9, leaving at 4. So some of those things. The point of saying that is we really need to develop programs out there, and part of the issue, we really need people to step up. Tomorrow we're going to have a meeting about perhaps bringing the Boys and Girls Club and using that facility for that purpose at 12 o'clock and also 6 p.m. at the firehouse. So thank you, Chief, for letting us use that. And then, but we need to create robust programs once we get personnel in there, they've got to really work it and not just be there and, open from 9 to 4, because the feedback we were getting, people are at school or at work at that time. So, that's something that we really have to be intentional about, and getting people to step up and volunteer. And that's been the biggest challenge for really creating good youth programs. So do want to turn it over to Raul again and Jacqueline if she'd like to engage a little bit. So we'll put a little bit of the new website up there, because we're going obviously we're going to rent it. The community center isn't closed, so we've been really trying to send that message that the community center is not closed. It is available for rent. And, for quinceañeras, weddings, all those sort of things. And one of the things that there's a community thought that we can't have alcohol in there, but we can have alcohol. It does trigger some provisions with security and things like that, but you can have alcohol in there for your wedding, your party, and all those kind of things. So, and that was one thing that was preventing a lot of people. Well, you can't have alcohol in there, so you can. There are some challenges with our floor and things like that. But with all that being said, let me turn it over to Raul and to give you an update.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. So yeah, just like city manager just said on the update, we did some changes thanks to Jackie and also Jafet with IT, who helped make some changes on the websites and with the application. So as you can see there, yes, that floor right there is not made out of wood. It is made out of a thin rubber. The intention for that floor was for basketball. And one of the concerns that I have with that and with big events, if we're going to compare it to like Navarro's or some other hall that actually uses it for dances and alcohol and things like that, is that floor right there with high heels or any kind of dragging of something, and once you rip it, there's really no way to just repair that section because of the material that it's made of and how it's made. If you look really close, it's hard there. If you were there, there's already been little patches that are made that they tried to do the best they could to so it's not noticeable. But eventually, when that floor is damaged to the point where even just playing certain sports, you can't because of the liability of the damage, then we're probably looking over $300,000 to replace that floor.
Okay.
So that is just a concern that I have. Obviously, it was intended for a basketball place. There's also some bleachers there that are made out of plastic that we've been replacing over time. They're for sitting. If you stand on them, they will crack. They're just not made out of wood like they used to be. So, but yes, it's been used for baby showers, class reunions. City has events there as well. It has a lot of possibilities as far as for the community. Last year brought in about $12,000 in rentals. That's the gym and the kitchen. So with that, do you have any other questions?
Council, questions for Mr. Sanchez and the manager?
All right, not for me.
Just,
Ms. Hart.
I'm just thinking, we have the splash pad out there too, so that's another aquatic item on our assets or accoutrements for the town. And we use it a lot, don't we?
So when staff was there, they would, if somebody came and wanted to just sit out there, they would turn it on.
Okay.
But yes, they would manually turn it on and just let it run while they were using it
Right.
and then shut it off
Okay,
when staff was there.
right.
Now that we don't have staff there, we don't have anybody there to just monitor that somebody's sitting there waiting to turn it on. So we don't have that.
So,
I've seen it with a button before. You can push the button and it runs for a few minutes and
Right. And
automatically.
And some places do have that. We don't have that. It was something that was brought up at one of the boards to look into. But yes,
Yeah, you're right, Counselor Hart. The Parks and Recs Board, I believe over the course of a few months, actually last year, have been, asked, I think, the current director to look into a potential button. I believe the city of Granger has a splash pad as well, and they have like a sensor that goes off for a period amount of time. So we don't, waste water, and then, it turns off and you can turn it back on, especially now that we don't have staff there. Could that be an option for us to look into?
well, it goes right back to if it isn't funded in the 25 budget, we don't have that money there because it's closed. But that's something that we would have to look into because whatever that cost is, the community center isn't funded in 2025, other than just the utilities and things that we needed to pay for.
Mr. Beeler.
Two questions. The splash pad. What does Yakima County says as far as having staff when it's operating? Like a swimming pool? Do they have something like that?
You have to have a lifeguard.
I
or
know there's
anything
water
like that.
quality that you have to maintain and test and all.
But the splash pad is at the community center. Since it's just going down, it's not being recycled. It's just continuously going down the drain.
Oh, we don't recirculate?
No,
It has to go to
no,
the sewer.
it has to continuously go. And so it's tied into the sewer system. But no, it's not being circulated.
And then pickleball, that's been really big in the last couple of years. Is there a profit on that, or do we just open up the gym for?
So that the way it was handled, yes, it was there'd be a person that's in charge of pickleball, just like open gym for basketball. And so as long as they're adults, then whoever's in charge is handling the day-to-day charge of the group. So every player pays $2. It goes in, they sign up the list of that they come in every day. And then that goes into a box that's there at the community center. And then staff will go there. Before, the staff that was there would pick it up daily, count it, and then take it to City Hall, and then it would go through the process. But now that we don't, then we have to go from City Hall and go over there and pick it up and take it back and do that.
They can still access.
They're still using it, yes. So they have certain hours that pickleball uses for pickleball, and basketball has certain hours. And now also Lobos, which is an indoor soccer group, is using it for certain days of the week within a certain time frame also for their indoor soccer.
I hope so. Spend a lot of money putting the wood up on the side.
Yes. So they
And Mr.
started.
Beeler, I have to ask if you would
last week.
speak into your microphone. That's like,
I'll try to speak into hers.
I was just,
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, we keep saying that it's closed, but in a sense, it is still open.
For rentals, yes, it is. it
It's
is
open for
It's-
rentals.
it's
So these,
not-
so the people that come in for basketball, do they pay $2 too per person?
Yes.
And do the soccer kids, do they pay the teams? Do they
That's-
play
that's-
some
That's
sort of fee?
That's through.
No, they don't.
League.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may.
right, sir.
So we have a facilities use agreement. So essentially, they're managing sort of this function for soccer. And it's one thing, it's sort of like no good deed goes unpunished. And so the intent was to invite all soccer teams. So, and I've learned a lot about soccer too. So we have a robust soccer community here, but what I'm learning, you have to distinguish between the leagues and then the teams. So there's Mid-Valley Soccer, Lower Valley Soccer, and then there's also teams within these groups, within these organizations. So one thing, Adrian and I, who runs Lobos, are going to meet because there's been an outcry of other teams that want to practice in the facility, which, that was our intent, was to be very inclusive. So I'm working with Andrew Robinson now to figure out, this has been another mystery for me, just how many people are actually playing basketball in there. So, and what Andrew has told me, some days nobody plays basketball. And then some days, some people play basketball. So we're trying to get a clear picture of what the basketball demand is, which doesn't seem to be as high. There's no question it's not as high as soccer. So, I mean, it's not even. So trying to reallocate the time for soccer versus basketball. And I know the basketball folks might be upset if we flex some of their time, but we really need to take a look at that because the demand for soccer is overwhelming right now.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ms. Hart.
On that same note, how many, you're trying to figure out how many basketball players are playing. You kind of got an idea how many pickleball players?
Lower Valley Pickleball has been very robust. So they use it. I don't know the exact days they use it, but they are on top of it, and they have a big group. I want to say at least like 15 people, 15 or more.
And it's kind of growing because it's a group from Prosser to Granger or something. And there's certain days they play in the morning and other days they play in the afternoon. So it kind of just works between them and because now we have soccer that plays Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So they were playing in the afternoons on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then in the mornings, nobody plays in the mornings, and so they were also using it in the morning certain days through the winter. Once the weather gets better, they play outside at the pickleball courts that are out by the tennis courts.
Okay, so yeah, again,
Just
this
looking for
warrants
numbers.
further discussion. I think that the community wants to use this facility and being able to find ways for them to do that, whether it's by rental or whether we're actually able to afford personnel there sometime in the future. I think it's worthy of discussion. Mr. Deputy Mayor, you had something to say?
Yeah, so do we know, Mr. City Manager, if the Parks and Recs Board is still going to continue meeting? In my opinion, I think they should. I think they should be part of these conversations as to, helping out with ideas or scheduling or.
And you're reading my mind because I was just about to say that I've been chatting with Amy Rubio, who's the chair, and we're on top of that because I also felt like, and all that we were working hard on our budget. So we're working on a day in February that we can all meet and get that going again. So I felt like it was important too. So great question.
Okay, no, and I think that's very important. We've got these folks who are committed to our community and giving them an opportunity to weigh in. I'm pretty sure they've got some pretty good ideas. All right, let's move on to the next item. Items from council members, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. I, to my knowledge, haven't received anything. Madam Clerk, is there anything new?
No.
Okay, so nothing has come in. Anybody who is interested, please get that information into the clerk's office and she can disseminate that to the committee who will be reviewing those applications. Other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. I'm going to start down at the far end with Mr. Beeler.
Nothing to report today, sir.
All right, Councilor Vasquez.
Just an announcement. So I'm part of Lions Club and we were at this meeting. The last meeting I attended, we were talking about donations. So actually, I know Councilor Hart can speak more to this because it was her project, but we just started looking for any donations for kids for grades, first grade to fifth grade. We'll be donating any items that are donated. It could be joggers or sweats or a hoodie or gloves or socks, because sometimes kids get into accidents. So it's been a project that Lions Club has done for a few years now. So we're just seeking community donations. It could be anything. We'll even accept like $5, $10, and we could like put the money together and buy some things new or used, whatever you guys have. We'd appreciate any donation. That way we could donate a good amount to, I believe, Pioneer School. And she could speak more to it, but just asking for donations. And you could reach out to me or Councilor Hart or Councilor Fausto.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rip.
Nothing to report.
All right, Councilor Fausto.
So we all, I think the counselors got an email. I just got an ACLU. We spoke about that this morning at the press briefing with the community. The ACLU and the nonprofit organization in town, AYA, will be hosting a Train the Trainer Know Your Rights session at the community center on February 8th. It's a Saturday from 10 to 12. This information was shared in the morning, and I'm just repeating it here. Everybody is invited. If you're a service provider, if you're a community member, if you're another organization in town, I think it's important for us to now more than ever to really understand our rights as residents within the community, and also understand how we can disseminate factual information to community members who might be seeking some information on how to access their own rights and understand their own rights within the community. So just encouraging you all to attend. It's on February, Saturday, the 8th, again, at 10 in the morning, and it will be with the ACLU. The ACLU will be present as well. And then there will be a Zoom link provided for anybody who might not want to attend for security and safety reasons.
All right, thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to report.
Councilor Hart.
Nope.
Okay. For myself, along with Deputy Mayor and Councilor Frausto, we attended the press conference along with the city manager and chief of police. And it was, for me, it was the first time I've ever attended a press conference. I don't know if I need to do it again. It was interesting. I think the main concern was to reassure the public in Sunnyside that the city itself is not going to be coming after anybody for immigration purposes. Two reasons for that. One of them is that we really don't want to, and the other one is we're really not invited. Federal agencies do what they're going to do, and they don't tell us beforehand. They don't consult with us. They don't ask our permission, and they don't ask our opinion. So you will not see city staff, city first responders, or anybody else knocking on doors and checking immigration paper. And so it was an interesting experience. There were a lot of questions that were asked, both by the press and by the public. A lot of information was put out there, as Ms. Frausto just gave some information just now. I think overall it was a productive time. And I know we're going to get feedback on all sides of that on Facebook. And that's one of those things, one of those risks you take when you put a position out there. But I think our main interest, and Mr. Beeler said it at the end of the meeting extremely well, council's main interest is our community, and we want the best for our community, the residents in our town. And I appreciate the presence of my fellow council members at the meeting. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I ever need to go through that again, but I think it was a productive experience. So, all right, next item, upcoming council meetings. We've got 3 of them listed here. I do have a question on the third one. Monday, February 17 is President's Day. I'm assuming that the meeting will be moved to the 18th. Yes. Okay. So that would be February 18, and that is a Tuesday. All right. And Madam City Clerk, you want to?
So for February 3rd, which is just a study session, we have Chief Hobrick presenting a resolution for equipment maintenance and repair services ILA. And then if your direction is to put that on the consent agenda for February 10th. And then on the 10th, you'll have one officer being sworn in and possibly a purchasing policy on the 10th. So I have a question. Is your desire to have council approve the tax increase on February 10th or on the 24th?
What is the desire of council on that one? You want to talk about that on the 10th and approve it, or do you want to do that on the 24th of February?
Sooner the better.
I would say the
Okay.
10th.
I'm still going to recommend a public hearing, even though we're not required to do that. I believe the public has a right to weigh in. I think that's important. So we can try to squeeze in a public hearing on that would be.
Debbie, is this enough time if we add it to the study session as present the documents, the materials? And yeah. No.
So then it looks like we're at the 24th.
So the 10th, do you want to have a public hearing and action afterwards? What would you like to do?
Doesn't that make the most sense?
I think so. I think if we can do that legally, I think it's important. And so
I think, yeah.
if we can put that all together on the 10th, it might make for a longer agenda, but.
And then do the vote. I think that's the.
Okay, so I'll add a public hearing and the approval on the 10th.
And that is a regular meeting, so action is expected there anyway, so.
Yep.
Very good. Then it looks like the 18th doesn't have a strong agenda yet, but I'm sure something will appear.
That is correct.
Okay.
You're like magic.
Yeah, it
Too
is
soon.
uncanny. If any council member has an item they wish to have placed on the agenda, please make sure you talk to the clerk or the manager and get that placed on there. All right, city manager report.
And Mayor, not much to report, but we'll try to have at the study session as much information on the pool funding and different mechanisms so the public is informed. And only thing I wanted to really just thank council members for the support of today, because that meant a lot to me. Because I had gotten a little bit of pushback, like, what are you doing? Why are you having a press conference like this? And for a moment I thought, maybe we'll just cancel it. But then I thought, you know what, if we're going to waffle and, but it meant a lot to me for everybody to come out and be a part of that. So I think, it's limited what we can do, but it also meant a lot when I'm hearing in the community that, Sunnyside's taking a stand for what we believe is right. So, I think it was a good moment of unity. I mean, we had the gentleman at the end who kind of went rogue and whatever, but I do want to apologize to the public.
Apologize for that.
Me too. But Councilman, and that's not, I don't like to raise my voice like that, but I just felt like in that, and I used a word that I regret saying, but I just felt in that moment, he was completely inappropriate. So anyhow, but council, I just truly appreciate the support. It meant a lot. And I think it meant a lot to the community. So thank you.
Thank you for taking initiative on doing that. And it's not easy to be in these situations and these conversations, but I will put myself out there whenever you need me to continue with transparency and conversations around this very important matter.
Like you did today.
Yeah. And thank you, Councilor Biller.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Just
Ms.
add to
Hartz.
that. I just want to commend you all for your presence at I wasn't actually able to be at the press conference today, but I did watch you.
And I saw you
did
had a
watch
comment
it.
online. So thank you. I knew you were watching.
So I just want to commend you on your good efforts there. It needed to be said. Our community obviously needs to know where we stand. And you all did a really fine job. So kudos to you all. Thank you, Councilor.
All right, I have just one thing to add in there before we go on to the executive session. Council, if there's no objection, I would like to request excused absence for the following meetings: February 3, February 10, February 18, and February 24. This is something that I've been planning for 2 years. And so I would like to request an excused absence for those meetings. There's no objection?
No objection.
Thank you so much, Council. And I will do my best to listen in while I'm gone, but I can't always promise that I'm going to make that happen. So, all right, we have an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30110, paragraph 1, section C, potential real estate purchase or sale. We don't predict any action. And then Councilor Beeler has asked for a report on the Munson property. How much time do we need, sir?
I would say with Councilman Beeler's, how about 10 minutes? And then if we need to extend.
10 minutes it is.
And and with all the if you could, Ben, Raul and Derek. Absolutely, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Got this. You got this.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. If you're going to go home, otherwise, you're welcome to come back and watch us adjourn.
Got a few more in my pocket, but.
We didn't haven't even had a chance to talk. This was a surprise to us too. So, but we have to talk about it.
We love to surprise. No, we don't love to surprise.
Councilor Ripley had one foot out the door already.
Yeah. I love watching those cameras come online.
Ooh, that got
And
me
having to
busy.
look at myself on that one. All right, are we back? All right, back in open session. And thank you, everybody, for waiting. There is one thing that I wanted to say tonight before, and I didn't say it and I forgot, and that relates to our council rules of procedure. Earlier in fall of 2024, some of my comments were taken out of, in a way that they weren't intended to, and it made it sound as if the clerk, or I thought the clerk was slacking in her duties. And I want to make it very clear to the public and everywhere that the clerk, our clerk, Ms. Renteria, has never slacked in getting things done. She has never given any kind of problems like that, but it was never what I intended to say. But it was unfortunately interpreted in that way. And I just want to make it clear to the public and for posterity online that I have absolutely zero complaints against the clerk. And so I just wanted to make that very clear. Wanted to say that before we started the discussion on that item, but it totally slipped my mind. So, all right. So there being no further business to come before this body, and without objection, we are adjourned at 8:46. Thank you, everybody. See you in March.
For the record, no action was taken after the executive session.
Oh, sorry about that, Jackie. You are correct.
It's okay.